Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our wonderful webinar this afternoon, The Power of Intergenerational Connection. And to start our afternoon session, I'd like to please welcome and ask Kasara Hardy to do our acknowledgement of country. So thank you very much, Kasara.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands and waters on which we're all meeting on today, and country throughout Australia, and their connections to land, sea and community. I would like to recognise the sovereignty and self-determination of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and that these lands and waters were never ceded. I'd like to pay my deepest respects to elders past and present, who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country and or island home. And we thank them for their wisdom, their courage, and for sharing their ways of knowing, being, and doing. Their teachings that guide us to cherish and care for our people and communities. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Thank you very much for that acknowledgement and welcome, Kasara. And I, in a previous role, I had the pleasure and opportunity to do some work with First Nations elders, and I wanted to also pass on my congratulations to the way First Nations people respect their elders, and we as a community have a lot to learn from that particular fantastic cultural attribute of our First Nations people. So thank you very much for that acknowledgement. So a little bit about today. The event's being held to mark the United Nations Day of the Older Person, with a focus on sharing insights, lived experiences and intergenerational perspectives. The aim is to promote an understanding, reduce ageism, and foster meaningful connections across the generations. The session will include contributions from older people, students, First Nations representatives, sector leaders, and will highlight the significance of today as a special focus on older people, and with a particular view around the importance of intergenerational practice and the value of cultural perspectives. The event also features a review of a new World Health Organization report on ageism and loneliness, and we'll start with that very shortly. Lived experience stories, student reflections, and we'll finish with a panel discussion to tie together all those themes. And of course, when we get to the panel discussion, we're going to want your voices, all of those that are kindly joining us today. So from a housekeeping point of view, please make sure that you're muted. But use today's chat. And I'd like to start to get you all warmed up. Can you just pop into the chat for me in the next couple of minutes? Where are you located today? I'm in Melbourne, lovely weather today. So I'm a Melbourne-based person. So just in the chat, if people could just start putting where you're located today, that would be fantastic. So the purpose of today is to have a particular focus on the lived experience and the intergenerational perspectives to promote a greater understanding around ageism. And we've got a wonderful panel of speakers today, and we've got a group of partner organisations who are putting on the webinar. So if I could just start with them. Our partner organisations for today, Kasara Hardy of NATSIAC, Rachel Was from Meaningful Aging Australia, Annika Fitzgerald, who's an emeritus professor at Griffith University, and Mark Trailing, the GM Partnerships and Communities of the Mercy Foundation. So thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be here today. But of course, without any further ado, we need to shine a bit of a light on our speakers for today. So I'm going to call on them each to give a brief summary of who they are. They can much better explain who they are than if I try to do that. So we'll start with Gwen. So Gwen, if you could introduce yourself to all our wonderful guests today.
Hey, my name is Gwen Rayner. I'm retired and I live in an over 50s community on the Gold Coast, and it's really hot here today. And it's called Sea Change, Emerald Lakes. I'm a volunteer and I have facilitated 2 intergenerational projects of my own design for 4 years, Golden Life Stories and the Kinder Kids project. It's for residents who are living in this over 50s community. And we connect with Year 10 students from the local Emmanuel College and Kinder Kids from Benoa Early Learning Centre, which is a local centre. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much for that, Rachel. Gwen, sorry. I'm looking at the partner organisations, my first bloop. Thanks very much, Gwen. Over to Kasara. Thank you for the acknowledgement. And over to you, Kasara, to introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name's Kasara Hardy. I'm here representing NATSIAC, the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Ageing and Aged Care Council. We are the national peak that represents Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people within the ageing and aged care sector. I'm a proud Dunghutti woman from northern New South Wales. I was born and raised on Durrick country in Western Sydney. My background includes working within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health sector for the last 6 years. Starting from working within an Aboriginal community health organisation, then moving to a state peak body before moving into the national peak. My overall passion is ensuring the career pathways for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in order to help improve the health and wellbeing of our people and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kasara, and we look forward to hearing from you very shortly. And Joanne, we've got a tag team effort here. So we've got Joanne, who's a teacher at Lutheran College, and Matthew Nicolai, who are joining us. So over to yourselves, a bit of an introduction.
Hi, thank you. We were very fortunate at Good News Lutheran College to undertake the accompaniment program with our vocational major Unit 4 students, and Matthew is one of those students, and we participated and conducted a project at Mercy Health in Wyndham, and it was fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing a lot more from you shortly. And so just a reminder to everybody, as part of the chat function today, we're very keen that you engage with us, and feel free as our speakers talk to make any comments or observations, and particularly any questions or areas you might like to explore a little bit further when we move to the panel later in the session. So to move into the first of the presentations today, I've got great pleasure in introducing Rachel, who's going to talk to us about the World Health Organisational report on intergenerational practice, ageism and loneliness. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Job. That is a wonderful introduction. And yeah, welcome to everyone today who's watching or who will see it on the replay. Setting the scene. I think we want to take a few moments to share highlights of this WHO Commission Social Connection report, from loneliness to social connection, charting a path to healthier societies. It is a fairly recent report. It was actually released in June 2025. It's a landmark report from WHO about social connection, and it talks about or highlights social isolation and loneliness, the fact that it's widespread with a serious but under-recognised impact on health, well-being and on society. Social health's the missing pillar of health, according to the report. WHO defines health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Importantly, WHO state that health is a fundamental human right. I think we'd all agree with that. Yet social health has long been overlooked. And at its core is this thing that we're talking about today, social connection. So what is social connection? Social connection in the report is described how people relate to and interact with each other. And it's got 3 main dimensions that you can see on the slide. Structure. So this is about the number and the types of relationships and roles that we have, and how often and how long people interact. Function, and this describes the type and the amount of support that's exchanged, whether it's in a practical way, financial, emotional, spiritual, informational. And then also it looks at quality, whether the interactions are positive, such as, someone describes as loving or satisfying, or negative. So that could be strained, conflicted, or even violent. Loneliness is a form of social disconnection. It is a painful subjective feeling that happens when your relationships do not match what you want or you need. Whereas social isolation, another form of disconnection, is the objective state of having few relationships or interactions. But we're not powerless in the face of this issue. A whole range of solutions exist to strengthen social and emotional connection. And these solutions can fall into 4 main categories described in the report. So you've got advocacy, that's, advocacy campaigns, networks, and coalition networks. And even in our own small way today, you attending this webinar and organisations collaborating on this free webinar is one example. The aim of that is to help raise awareness, help kind of contribute to shift those social norms and build networks of change. Then you've got policies. And one thing that you could do is looking at the recommendations of this WHO report and seeing how this information can be reviewed in your own organisation. Policies are obviously really important to create a whole of society approach, and that really sort of has government working across sectors. Then you've got the third one, community-led strategies. Things like intergenerational programs are an example of that, but they're really programs where people live, work, learn, play, and age. That's really where connections start to happen. And finally, individual relationship strategies. These are the strategies that have the strongest evidence of effectiveness, and examples could include skills training, social engagement opportunities, therapeutic and psychological supports. So even, in the world of aged care, things like reminiscence therapy, friendship groups, pastoral care, so any of those kinds of things, skills and training programs to also build individual knowledge and confidence to connect with others are also really important. So finally, to wrap things up, the report makes it clear that the costs of inaction are high, but the benefits of connection are far-reaching, and the time to prioritise social connection is now. The WHO report encourages us and says that we've got a unique opportunity ahead, and there's a link there of the report for you, but we'll share that also on the replay. I'm really looking forward, Gerard, to actually hear from those who are engaged in this kind of work of lived experience in this topic. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, Rod. Just a quick question from myself. You had the slide there where it had the 4 areas of starting: advocacy, policy, community strategies, and individual. Where do you think we should start?
That's a really good question. Where do you start? I think back recently, I just watched a video of Brené Brown. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Brené Brown, but she's a well-known researcher and very popular, kind of written a few popular books. A lot of her insights talk about courage and vulnerability, and she reminded me recently about the idea of courage, which comes from a French word cœur, meaning heart. And I think to draw it back into this topic, it's a powerful reminder that when we lose touch with our own self-compassion, wholeheartedness, and loving kindness in our work and our lives, we kind of risk losing the meaning and purpose of that and connections. So I think everyone who attends this presentation or watches the replay, will know it's precisely this that older people say they want most in aged care. It's not just the good clinical support, and of course that's important, but it's that genuine human connection. Every person carries a story, and too often what they lack is someone willing to listen, Jared. And that's the thing, I think, to encourage people, and something Meaningful Aging Australia really would want to sort of encourage people to do is actually start to consider that aspect. You know, talk to the person next to you. You know, I'm one of those people in a plane or a bus or a train. I'll have a chat to someone next to me rather than looking at my phone. I think it starts really small, and once you start.
Thanks for that, Brad. Yeah, thanks for that. I always enjoy when someone does that on the plane. I don't always remember to do it first, though. So great way. So it's very much an individual starting point. What can each of us do to move along the journey? And there's one individual that's done a lot in this space, isn't there, Gwen? So I'd love to hear a bit more from yourself about the stories that you've got to share with us. So over to you, Gwen.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to talk about the far-reaching benefits of intergenerational social connections. And after 4 years of delivering both the Golden Stories, where you've got a picture there, and the KinderKids project as a volunteer, I'll talk specifically about 4 Sea Change residents, that's people who live in my community. So first of all, could you please watch this short video, which was made for a Volunteers Award by Emmanuel College. Golden Life Stories is bringing together of Year 10 students from Emmanuel College, and they come over to Sea Change and they interview the residents here about their life.
Gwen introduced me to this project about the Golden Stories, and I was blessed with being given 2 young ladies to explore my life. It recharged my batteries. At the end of the project, they asked me if it would be all right if they stayed in touch with me, and we meet and have breakfast together, and we've done that every month this year since.
Over time, we built relationship that obviously extended into something far bigger, and now we're here celebrating Christmas together, which is really exciting. It's really good for me to connect with the elderly, because some people might not have elderly people in their life to talk to, and I feel like it's really beneficial for them to talk to them and just learn more about their stories, what life was like when they were our age. I feel everyone's affected each other in a really positive way, whether it's resident to student, student to resident, either way.
The students are seeing old people, but they're not doddery and old, you know, that they actually have had a life and can give them advice. It's definitely a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Hugh. Hugh was the person who was featured in the video, and he participated in the first ever experiment of the Golden Life Stories in 2022, which is 4 years ago. Hugh is now 92. He lost his wife soon after moving into Sea Change, and he didn't know what to do with his life, and he lost direction and all sense of purpose. He even considered moving out. So Hugh, and you saw, I think, on the video, you wouldn't have noticed that, but Hugh connected with 2 female Emmanuel College students for the Golden Life Stories project, and has met them every month since the start of the project. So this is now 4 years, not just when the video was taken. So the 2 young ladies are now at university, and he still keeps meeting them, but now on a Saturday. He used to meet them on Friday morning before school. And they often celebrate special occasions, and they both attended 2 of Hugh's 90th birthday celebrations with their parents. And I was only invited to 1, so they went to more than I did. Hugh says he'd found the project exhilarating and wonderful. It changed his approach to life and he became more social with other residents. He enjoyed learning about the teenagers' lives and he is always animated, smiling, joking when he talks about his girls, as he calls them. So next one. Now this photograph was taken last week at Emerald Lakes Village. Peter is a Vietnam veteran. He's married with family, but he does suffer from PTSD. He joined the Golden Life Stories in 2023 and connected with 2 Year 10 boys. The boys joined the Sea Change kayak group. We have lots of fun in our place, by the way. So they joined the Sea Change kayak group before school once a month after the project finished and had breakfast with Peter. Now, one of the students had some serious school issues, which I won't go into, and consequently moved schools. But they both still connect in the school holidays. Peter has become a huge support for them, especially the student who moved schools. And last week at this breakfast, he proudly informed Peter that he is now the house captain in his new school in 2026. So Peter mentors and helps them both on their teenage journeys. I will always value and treasure the remarkable students I have met, said Peter. Next one. So now this is the Kindy Kids project. That's me in the front there, which focuses on the power of oral storytelling to break down barriers between generations. I am the main storyteller, but now have Sea Change players, who we call ourselves. All these people come along and act and be stupid, and helping me at every session. The next one, please. Now, The Great Big Enormous Turnip is a favourite story, and you can see how residents and the children all become involved in the retelling of the story. I mean, it's just a magic time for everybody, including the owner of the childcare centre who's there and her parents and all the educators. They all get involved. Next.
Ding.
So this is Harry. Now, the relationship building at the Kindy Kids project is very different and very slow. Children and the grandfriends are free to move and chat with everyone, and we have 2 groups of Kindy Kids together, so there's up to 45 children there. So it takes more time. However, Harry has dementia, but he was an immediate hit with these two girls who would not leave him alone. If you look at the little girl just looking up at him, they all laughed and giggled, and when it was time to leave, the girls sobbed and had to be consoled by one of the educators. At all the following sessions, the girls were at the gate demanding, "Where's Harry? Where's Harry?" And the relationship grew and grew and grew, just like the enormous carrot. Now, can you imagine how Harry felt? Harry's wife Val met the girls' parents and invited them to Sea Change to look at the Christmas lights. It was a very happy meeting, exchanging small Christmas gifts and a lot of love. Harry felt some special joy and happiness in his life from these 2 young girls.
Thank you so much, Gwen, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with you in a little while.
I've got one more.
We'll come back.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Thank you very much. And so, moving on now, I'm delighted to go to Joanne and to Matthew to share some experience of a very recent project from the Good News Lutheran College. Over to yourselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and share our school's journey with the accompaniment program and the meaningful impact it's had on our school community and community as a whole. At Good News Lutheran College, we've been honoured to participate in the accompaniment program, an initiative designed to nurture compassion, empathy, and a deeper appreciation of what it means to age with dignity. Developed in partnership with the Catholic Development Fund, Catholic Health Australia, Australian Catholic University, Meaningful Ageing, and Mercy Health Foundation, this program provides students with a powerful opportunity to explore, respect, service, and intergenerational connection through both reflection and action. Our Unit 4 vocational major personal development skills students completed all 4 modules, including understanding ageing, dignity in care, respecting the wisdom of older persons, and embracing ageing challenges. Then, through rich classroom conversations, we unpacked the stereotypes around ageing, reflected on the scripture, and explored the physical, emotional, and social barriers often faced by older members of our community. Students were particularly moved by the discussion on loneliness, loss of independence, and the need for authentic companionship. They didn't want to create a tokenistic project. They wanted to create something that was meaningful, something that would truly honour the lives and the experience of our elderly community members. From these reflections, the Memory Lane Photo Story project was born. Our goal was simple but profound: to help residents connect with others, to reflect on their life journey, to feel valued and respected for their wisdom and experiences. Each student was paired with a resident at Mercy Health Wyndham. Over a series of visits, they conducted interviews and created a reflective biographical story, excuse me, beautifully typed and presented with visual elements capturing the resident's life and memories. Each photo story was framed and one copy was gifted to the resident to keep, and another was displayed in the hallway of Mercy Health Wyndham, a lasting celebration for residents, family, staff, and visitors alike. From the very first visit, something remarkable happened. Our students formed genuine, heartfelt connections with their resident. They discovered that the companionship is a two-way gift, that listening, empathy, and storytelling can profoundly shape both young and old. Many students shared how their own perspectives on ageing had changed completely. They looked forward to each visit, eager to reconnect, to listen, and to learn. Residents in turn felt seen, heard, and celebrated, reminded that their stories still matter and will continue to inspire generations to come. The accompaniment program and our Memory Lane Photo Story initiative remind us that dignity in ageing begins in understanding, empathy, and connection. Through this experience, our students haven't just learned about ageing, they've learned about humanity. I'd now like to introduce Matthew Nicolai, one of our Year 12 Unit 4 Personal Development Skills students. He'll share his personal reflections on the accompaniment program and his involvement in the Memory Lane Memory Photo Story project.
Hello everyone. When I first heard that our class would be visiting an aged care home as part of the accompaniment program, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. To be honest, I thought it might feel a bit awkward, that the residents wouldn't really talk to us or that we'd have nothing in common. But from the very first visit, that idea completely changed. Through the accompaniment program and the Memory Lane Photo Story project, I've learned that older people are far from disconnected. In fact, they have an incredible amount to share. Their stories, their humor, their resilience have completely shifted the way I see aging and what it means to live a full life. The resident I was partnered with was Greg Latham, and his story really stayed with me. Greg was born in Sale, Victoria, and grew up moving around his father's work in the Air Force. His life wasn't easy. He moved from school to school, worked in factories, lived in share houses, and had to rebuild his life after a serious motorcycle accident. But what struck me the most about Greg wasn't the challenges, it was how he faced them. He turned his accident into motivation, studied IT, built a 25-year career in technology, and even traveled overseas helping rebuild banking systems during the Asian financial crisis. He told me about working for Telstra and NAB. Now he'd rather have his boss accept his award than take the spotlight himself. He didn't care about titles. He cared about people, teamwork, and problem solving. But Greg's story isn't just one person's experience. It represents what so many residents have in common: resilience, purpose, and a strong sense of identity. Every person we met had faced challenges, loss, and change, but they had also lived lives full of love, laughter, and incredible moments. So how have my views about older people changed? I used to see them as fragile, maybe even disconnected from today's world. Now I see them as strong, capable, and wise people who have so much to teach us if we simply take the time to listen. They've already lived through so much change, more than most of us can imagine, and yet they still find ways to smile and stay positive. Through this program, I also realized what we as high school students can offer for older people. It's not about grand gestures, it's just about connection. Sitting them, asking questions, and showing interest. A few minutes of conversation can completely brighten their day. Our visits brought laughter and energy into their week, and in return, they gave us lessons about life that you cannot learn in the classroom. Older people offer us perspective. Greg often said, keep stress low, eat well, rest deeply, and never stop learning. That advice might sound simple, but it's exactly what most of us forget when life gets busy. Talking with him reminded me to slow down and to appreciate small moments and not let stress take over. One of the most powerful parts of the Memory Lane photo story project was seeing how proud the residents were when they received their framed stories. For them, it wasn't just a photo or a page of text, it was recognition. It was proof that their life mattered, that someone took the time to listen, and that their journey would continue to be remembered. The accompaniment program has completely changed my understanding of aging. I've learned that dignity doesn't come from how old you are or what you can still do. It comes from being seen, valued, and respected. And that's something both young and old can give to each other. I'm truly grateful for this experience and what it's taught me, not just about aging, but what it means to live with empathy, respect, and connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. We'll hand back to you.
Thank you, and what a wonderful shared story, and congratulations, Matthew, to you and the students, and Joanne and the teachers for the initiative that you took there, and thanks for sharing that with us. And our final speaker is Kasara, who's going to give us a First Nations perspective. So over to you. Thanks, Kasara.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I want to speak about something that sits at the very heart of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's lives. It's intergenerational connections. In many parts of mainstream Australia, family is often understood as the nuclear unit. So that includes parents, children, and grandparents. But for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, family is something much broader and much deeper. For example, this could include aunties, uncles, neighbours, or somebody from their local community. Our kinship systems are complex, interconnected, and enduring. They shape how we belong, how we care for each other, and how we make decisions. Next slide, please. This means that when we talk about ageing and aged care in our communities, we cannot talk about the elder or older person as an individual in isolation. The care of one Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elder or older person is the care of a family, of a kinship group, or a community. Decisions about care are collective, guided by cultural obligations and responsibilities. Next, please. Our elders and older people are not just older Australians, they are cultural authorities. They are the knowledge holders, the language carriers, and the storytellers, the teachers of our histories and our ways. They are the bridge between generations. They remind us of who we are, and they show us where we come from. Next slide. This is so important for our young people because elders and older people hold the stories that our mob's younger generations need to hear. These are not just stories of the past. They are lessons, they are warnings, they are guides for the future. Without them, our younger people risk losing the deep cultural knowledge that shapes their identity and their journey. With our elders and older people's knowledge, our young people can stand strong in culture, proud in who they are, and ready to carry their history forward. Next slide. And in return, our younger generations walk alongside our elders and older people, supporting them with daily needs, with new technologies, with navigating complex systems. And it's a reciprocal relationship. Elders and older people give wisdom and younger people give care. This intergenerational exchange is what keeps our community strong. Next slide. But I also want to emphasise something that is often overlooked in the aged care system for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Aged care does not begin at 65 or 70. Because of the impacts of colonisation, of poorer health outcomes, and of life expectancy gaps, our elders and older people are recognised from the age of 50. That's why we always mention elders and older people. Next slide. This must be embedded into the way aged care policy and services are designed and the care is provided to our elders and older people. If we wait until 65, we risk leaving our people behind. We are denying them the chance to age with dignity, with culture, and with the support of their families and communities. Next slide. Best practice for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander aged care means recognising these truths. It means creating services that do not separate elders and older people from their kinship systems, but instead welcome family and community into the journey of care. It means respecting cultural authority and decision-making. It means making space for elders and older people to continue to share knowledge, whether through yarning circles, on country or island home activities, language and cultural teaching, or intergenerational programs. Because when elders and older people are supported to share, everyone benefits. Our young people grow up with identity, strength, and pride. Our communities remain connected, and our culture, which is the world's oldest continuous culture, is carried forward. So as we think about the future of aged care, I want us to remember this. Elders and older people are just not recipients of care. They are our leaders, they are our teachers, and they are the foundations of our communities. To care for our elders and older people is to care for our culture and to support them to strengthen our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kasara. So I'd ask everybody to give a virtual round of applause to our wonderful group of speakers. And I'm going to have an opportunity now to bring all the speakers back together as part of a panel. And so if I could ask Joanne and Matthew, Gwen and Kasara, please to unmute yourselves and invite everybody who's here with us today to put into the chat any comments or questions that you might like to raise as I go back to the panel members. And I'd actually like to start with you, Gwen. I had to unfortunately cut you off with one of you're going to give us one sort of final example. Did you want to just quickly tell us, share what you were going to say?
Yes, it was about a person called Vonda, and when I asked her to do the Golden Life story, she said, "Oh, my life's boring. I don't want to do that." Anyway, I persuaded her to go along to the kindy one, and suddenly she found her forte. She is actually a co-presenter with me now. We do the storytelling together. She's full of laughter. She's planning stories. She's planning activities for the kiddies when we go along. So in some ways, it's changed her life. I just got the wrong part of it at the beginning. So now she could do the golden stories because she's having a wonderful life. And that was basically it. And all different outcomes that I would never, ever, ever have predicted when I first started the programs.
Thanks for that, Gwen. So that's a nice segue into my first question. What do you find is the best way to encourage older people themselves to actually get involved in a program like this? It must be a little bit of a hesitancy for some people. So how do you actually encourage them to join in an intergenerational program?
It's hard, and with the first project, it's very hard as well if somebody's deciding to do one, and it's all a bit of a challenge, and people don't know what to expect. But a lot of people back off because they're scared. They don't think they got a good story, just like Vonda. And I think the key is to provide lots of information before you ever start. As a shout to Annika to actually watch the 4-year-olds and the teenagers in aged care on the ABC and discuss it with the group of people that you would like to encourage to do it, and involve them in the planning, and planning should be flexible. And when I was doing both programs, and it's not the same program that I started 4 years. Neither of them are not the same. And that's all to do with people inputting, both the students and the older people.
Thank you very much for that, Gwen. I'd like to go to Matthew and Joanne now. Matthew, I don't know whether you could see the chat as you were talking, but you got a resounding positive tick for the quality of your presentation.
Thank you.
Someone even had the temerity to suggest we might have just heard from the next Prime Minister. There you go. How's that in terms of the quality of the presentation? You did touch on towards the end how your views towards and of older people had changed. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? You know, what you obviously had particular expectations, and the experience was a bit different. So tell us a bit more about how your views have changed.
Well, to begin with, I would say before this accompaniment program, like seeing the older generations and this younger generation, they seem more divided. Like it seems hard to connect with them. But through the project and getting to like interact with them, you get to learn like they're just like us, and they have more experiences, more advice on how we can live our lives. And it just brings a connection with common interests.
And Joan, you would have sort of in a way sat in the background and watched some of this evolve. What are your reflections on what you saw happen as the students and do we call them older people? I suppose we have to. I haven't thought of another name yet.
It was actually, I was myself shocked. Initially, I felt or went into this thinking that the residents would get more from the project. But when we got on the bus on the way home and listening to the conversations and the energy of the students and their comments, I think the students, they actually probably got more out of it than the residents, especially after the first visit. But I think for them, it was realising the similarities that, especially for a number of the students who are heading year 11, year 12 towards the end of their educational journey, and they're making some really big life choices. But listening to their residents, and their residents have had to navigate life choices, and realising that although they've grown up in different generational times, that they've still got a lot of similarity in their life experiences. And I guess the advice that the residents were sharing with our students, they were able to use it. So it was kind of profound to see the recognition of the similarities, even though they've grown up in different generations. And the students, I think, just realising how personal, how human the residents were and their stories and their loves, their happiness and the sorrows that each of them have overcome in their life. It was amazing to witness.
It must have been, just back to you again, Matthew, it must have been pretty amazing to get to the end and to actually give an older person a book with their story in it. What was that like when you handed that over?
I felt very accomplished because I got to, over the visits that I got to experience the connection with Greg, I got to learn about him. I got to develop that friendship with him. And to have this all done now and then giving him the final product, it felt very achieving.
If I could just further add to Matthew's story, his resident generally didn't leave his room unless it was to attend a medical appointment. But the day that all the students came to the retirement village to hand the residents their photos, he actually volunteered to leave his room and come out into the main area that were presenting the photo stories and join in the group. And apparently he hadn't done something like that for over a year. So it was a huge moment for him. Some of our other residents shed tears of joy, of positive, just by seeing that, I guess, a snapshot of their own life journey. It was quite beautiful for them to see that. And it was kind of emotional. It was positive to share that with them, but sad that that sort of part, we'd finished that part of the project and we're now looking at trying to sort of maintain that connection with the people there.
So, as a matter of interest, Joanne, just before we move on to Kasara, why did you get involved?
I was approached by our senior school principal about a project, and as part of the study design, I do apologise, as part of the study design for vocational major personal development unit 4, the students have to do a community project. And we'd had some discussions in the class about doing things that really matter and it aligns with our school's values. So when this project was sort of was first introduced to it, I thought this is a great opportunity for the students to learn from other people that have had different experiences but can share knowledge with them. So initially it was to meet part of a study design requirement, which is why I thought, yeah, we could look at this. And then actually reading through the modules in the unit, I was actually really excited to see that I wasn't just going to take a study design requirement, that the students are actually going to get something really meaningful and lifelong out of this.
Absolutely. And something you can share one day in an interview, Matthew, when they ask you for something creative that you've done in your life. So over to you, Kasara. As an Aboriginal woman, what are some of the moments that you cherish most when it comes to intergenerational connections and learning from elders and older people?
What I cherish the most is more around just sitting down and having a yarn with our elders and older people. They share their stories about their lives, the challenges that they've faced, and the strengths that they've carried through it all. Throughout those yarns, it could be anything from laughter, even sometimes tears. You really feel the depth of your culture and the power of that connection with your elders and older people. So to me, that's just something that's so grounding about being surrounded by their knowledge and their wisdom. And something that from those stories and every word that they share, it's a small bit of a bigger journey that you also belong to as part of that community. I also enjoy seeing our younger generations with our old elders and older people, similar to what Gwen and Joanne have explained today. You see their eyes light up and when they hear something that links them to their mob, their culture, and their country or island home, it just makes them feel proud. They're a part of something. They're loved and respected, and yeah, it's a two-way street there. And what it reminds me of is a connection to culture isn't just taught, it's lived and it's experienced together. It's about strengthening who we are today and making sure our young people walk strong in their culture and identity.
Thanks very much for that, Kasara. Just I'll pick randomly out some of the questions. We've got some lovely questions in the chat, and this one's for you, Joanne. So we've got Annie, who's a school teacher, and says, as a school teacher, how do we make a start? Is there a template people can use to get started, e.g. how to communicate best and who to and what legal checks? So the back end of it, is there any guidance on that, Joanne?
I would go to, not sure what state the person asking is from, but obviously go back to your state's relevant curriculum. For me, I went to the VICA, that's it, Victorian Assessment, the study design, and looked at what I needed to do from that end. And then looked at the accompaniment program. The program itself, I would actually reach out to Mercy Health and get in contact with them about the program, but the units are very grab and go and adaptable to different year levels, but checking your curriculum requirements. In other year levels, it could fall not quite nicely under a humanities area for year 7 upwards. If your school has a faith element, it would also link, we're a Lutheran school, so it would also link with our Christian studies curriculum area. But the modules, the way that they've presented, are really adaptable across a broad range of year levels. It's the conversation that the class generates after, which differentiates for year levels and reflects the students on their maturity levels. So I hope that answers your question, but I'm happy to provide any more specific advice if needed.
Thank you very much for that. So it's back to yourself, Gwen. There's a question about some practical tips of starting off some type of intergenerational program from an older person's perspective. So have you got any tips about where you might start?
Well, for both programs, I had a connection with the people already. And so I think that's it. You've got to find out in the community who you know and who you could connect with. And after that, things can just slot into place. And as an answer to Joanne's question as well, I'd suggest that anybody that wants to start an intergenerational program should go to AIIP, where Annika will help you. She's got wonderful ideas, and there's courses as well to do at the Joy course at AIIP too. I haven't done it because I started before it all started, but
you're an early adopter.
No, no way. I'm just a community person, and I thought I'd do something for the community here, who I live with, who are just wonderful people. So, and if an older person wants to do it, go and move into an over 50s resort, and then you've got all your old people there already waiting, champing at the bit to join in.
Thanks, Gwen. And just so that everybody, if you haven't seen, you'll find in the chat, Annika's actually put up a post with a reference to that, to what Gwen was just talking about, with a link to that. So, Gwen, just before I leave you there, on a personal level, could you just make an observation about how you might have changed or grown as a result of this experience? What's it meant to you as an individual person?
I just consider myself very special, that I've had the opportunity to work with all these people. Constantly, I'm being sort of, oh, Gwen, come and listen to, somebody's been invited to a concert from the Emmanuel students, etc., or other things. And I had the opportunity as well to meet all the students and the kindy kids. I'd say there's a different relationship with the kindy kids. And I've grown because I've had to learn how to do things like do a Zoom talk, which is not my forte. So I've gone out
you've
of my
excelled today,
comfort zone. But doing things as well, all the administration, because I'm just me, I just do everything to do with both programs. So all the emails and all the planning, etc., etc. So I've grown as a person, when maybe I could have just sat down and put my feet up and played bingo. So
thanks for that, Gwen. Well, we're just about coming towards the end, but just before I do, I'm just going to go back to each of our speakers, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to make one closing comment or observation. What's a top of mind thought you might like to leave us first? And I'll start with Kasara. So Kasara, what's the thought you'd like to leave us with?
On the spot. I think from a First Nations perspective, which we always say is, if you get it right for us, you're going to get it right for everyone. Everyone has a culture, has their own beliefs, and way of doing things. So just be considerate of everyone, ask them what they would like, how they would like to connect, and just be kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now to Joanne and Matthew. You have 30 seconds each. What's the closing thought you'd like to leave us with?
Again, the pressure. We're just, as a school, Good News Lutheran College, we're just absolutely thrilled and really proud of being able to actually participate in the program. It was a really well prepared and meaningful program that provided lifelong and truly enriching learning for the students, and even for myself as an educator, watching the learning unfold for the students and for our residents. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Matthew?
Nothing else.
But thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And Gwen, your final thought for everybody.
if nobody's been involved in intergenerational practice, have a go, because the outcomes are far better for both the young people and the old people than you could have ever have dreamed of. And some of the experiences I've had over the past 4 years are just sensational. And I wish I could box them up and share them, but they're all in here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gwen. Well, that brings us to an end. Thank you again to our partner hosts, Rachel, Annika, Kasara and Mark, and a big thank you to our speakers. And if we could put a big virtual round of applause together to thank Gwen, Kasara, Joanne and Matthew for being willing to share with us your experiences of intergenerational program on this important day of the UN's Day for Older Persons. Everybody have a lovely day, and look forward to the recording of the video if you want to watch it again. Good afternoon.